If we're ready, we can start at 6:50. We have a 4 minute.
So good. I hit record on my end as well, so we got the screen recording going.
Cool. Okay. Um, if we're ready, then we can start with the opening. Hey, bro, what's up? I'm Vin,
I'm Jeff.
and welcome to our podcast. This week is our intro to the connections chapters, where we want to talk about how important connections are in a man's life and what struggles men deal with their connections in everyday life, like with your family, your friends, your workspace, even yourself. Um, so this first week is we're going to talk about friends, and we have our first guest is Strive. Strive, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Strive. I am friends with JB, Jay Blokel. We've been friends for a few years, and it really took off really fast. And now we're here.
One of my
Nice.
best friends. Don't sell
Oh,
yourself short. You're
yes,
one of
sir.
my
That's the
groomsmen,
point.
man. Own up to it.
And Strive, would you like to read off the quote of the week?
All right. Quote of the week is: having a male friend is like having a brother who doesn't share your DNA but shares your heart. It was anonymous.
Yeah. So why did you pick this one? What made you like drawn to it?
Well, I I, I always like the idea of having a brother who I can just like, vibe with, talk about bro stuff with, and that's honestly like one of the things JB and some of my other friends give me is just having a brother to talk about guy stuff with, and that's not something I had a lot, at least in my adolescent into early adult years.
You don't have any brothers or siblings or anything?
I have sisters,
Okay,
but it's
gotcha.
not really the same.
Yeah, not at all. Not.
That's why we clicked so fast. Like, we met at work. We were both working at Walmart at the time.
hmm
And literally, like, within our first couple conversations, like, topics had been brought up, like video games and anime, and all of a sudden we were like, we're friends now. And then it just skyrocketed from there.
It did.
Yeah. How does this touch you? How does this quote touch you, Jeff?
Um, to me, like that quote hits it right on the head because I've always been a firm believer in like the family you build can, I won't say is, but can be more important than the family you're born into. And in my case, like I've talked about my family struggles a lot on this podcast already. Like to me, I value my close knit friends more than I value most of my family. So to me, this quote it takes it away because Strive here like is one of my close knit people and is one of the most important people to me because of that bond and that friendship that we've built.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I totally agree with you both. At a super young age, I don't remember exactly, but I had this thought of like, there's people out here that are not blood related, and they are willing to die for me. They're willing to do a lot. So it's like something clicked in me, and I'm just like, these guys are also as important, if not more, sometimes than your own blood family. And we can get into that, but yeah, I definitely I wouldn't be the man I am today without my brothers. So
Plus, just like Strive, I always liked the idea of having a brother growing up. I had only sisters until I was like, how old was I? I think I was like 16 or 17 when my brother was born. So there's quite a bit of an age gap, so I didn't really get to start connecting with him until these past couple years because now he's 17, about to turn 18, so he's getting to his adult years and like we've definitely bonded more now, but in my teen years and early adult years, he was 3, 4, 5, so I couldn't really, hang out with my bro and do some stuff, so
and like now you're talking about, like, I literally had two sisters. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, I also didn't have a brother to bond with throughout the years. So Yeah,
I leaned
cool.
on my friends for that.
Exactly. Yeah, all the stuff that like we go through, right? All the struggles and stuff, like we have that brother, our friend, our best friend that can, yeah, lean on each other and go through. Um,
Let's say I've definitely leaned on Jeff a time or two when I'm going through some stuff too, and he knows.
We've had many a conversation, you know, when either one of us is going through something where be just like this, sitting in a Discord call,
yeah.
shooting the shit, and next thing we know, we're like, dude, it's 5:30 in the morning. What happened?
Have okay, question for y'all. Did have y'all ever been what's the word? Misconstrued as gay for each other or like y'all were like partners or something because y'all were just so close?
No,
No,
No?
because the whole time Strive's known me, I've been with my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
was about to say the timing's different, yeah. Um, Me and Cullen, we we had the same friend group back in high school. We didn't become best friends until college. And the thing is, like, if you looked at us back then, we were completely different people. Like, nobody put us together as like, oh, these guys would be best friends. So in college, we got really close, and we became best friends. Started hanging out a lot more, posting pictures on Facebook, stuff like that. And it like kind of caught the whole all everyone like off guard. And the running joke in my family was like, "Oh, are you gonna go see your boyfriend, Cullen, and stuff like that?" It's like, "Oh, who are you dating now, Cullen?" And the kicker was he was in seminary to become a priest. He was in there for 3 years. He gets out. He decides personally it's time to get out. I go to his graduation, yada yada, and I was with his family. Um, his dad one day brings him. They're at home. His dad brings him in one day. He's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you. I know you just left seminary, and you and Vin have gotten really close. Is there something going on there? Is there?" And Colin's like, "Nope, Dad. I promise you, we're good. Like I left on my own accord. Not gay." So that's a little fun story I have. I didn't know if y'all had experienced something like that, being
with
close.
Strive, no, but uh, when I was in like high school, my best friend back in high school, like we were inseparable, and there was many people who thought he and I were together, and it's like no, like just my best friend. Like we hang out, we chase after girls, like
Yep.
we're just good friends. But
Yep.
the kicker to it with my family. Now, most people don't believe in like psychics and fortune tellers and all that, but every once in a while, curiosity gets a better view. If you see one at like a state fair or something, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna get my palm read. Why not?
Okay.
And my oldest sister went to one at a fair, and that fortune teller was like, "Oh, I didn't know your brother was gay." So she had to tell me about that when she got home, and I was like, "Pretty sure I'm not. I definitely like girls, but
Uh,
you do
what?
you."
You know how they do psychic readings, right? They just do a cold read on like they ask some mumbo jumbo questions in the beginning, and they see how you like react to it, just little micro expressions, and then they just base their fortune telling off of that.
So I
Yeah.
wonder
So
what led the fortune teller to say that. Cause
yeah,
I'm, cause
exactly.
I'm
So
the
that's
only brother she's got. Like my
yeah.
youngest brother is on my dad's side. This
Mm-hmm.
sister's on my mom's side. So I'm the only brother. So that fortune teller was talking about me.
Bull. And then like they'll say like, "Oh, you'll meet the love of your life in a year." That when I did that in high school, that's what they said, and I was like, I didn't. I'm 20. Like it's 10. It was 18. So yeah, 10 years later, I didn't find Mia. So she was, 10 times off.
Slight miscalculation.
Yeah,
Slight.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah. So that's so so speaking of like leaning on each other and everything, how important do y'all think is having a social and support group is then? Like imagine like life without each other, y'all being like me imagining life without Cullen. How important do you think it is like essential to have a social and support group?
You want to take that first drive?
I think it's probably one of the most important things you can do because if I didn't have my group that I've got, like my two best friends, and then some of the other support group that I've got, I don't know if I'd still be here. If I'm being honest, like
Yeah.
they've pulled me through a lot of hard times and have supported me when nobody else did. So just having them there, having that social group, plus like if I'm feeling down, I know I can always like lean on them a little bit to kind of help bring me back. So it's definitely something that I think is one of the most important things you can do, just as much as like eating well, exercising, anything like that.
What difference then? Like, was your family life good? Like you're close with your parents and stuff like that, and sisters.
Uh, growing up, I was close with my siblings a little bit more than I am now.
Okay.
I don't talk to them near as often as I used to. And then, but it was pretty much just my dad, and then because I had a broken home,
Yeah.
so I would go see my what I call my legal mom now every other weekend for a while, but now we don't talk at all. And then my dad and I have gotten a little bit closer as I've gotten older, but for the most part, it's just been friends as much as I can since I became an adult.
Yeah. So yeah, my question was how what was the difference between, like, say you said you were closer to your siblings, so what was the
Yeah,
difference between your sisters and then your, best friends and social groups? What's the difference there for you?
that's a hard question to answer.
Mhm.
Let's see. The different I guess it'd be like what kind of things we talk about because like I said, so like
Mhm.
with the guys you can talk about more guy like not a lot of women, I'm not saying all women, but not a lot of
Mhm.
women play video games,
Right.
especially stuff like Call of Duty, Halo, anything like that. So it's nice to talk to guys about that. Or if you're wanting to talk about like romantic relations or like girls or whatever else, like it's easier to talk about that kind of stuff with the guys, with friends, than it is
Right.
like sisters or even parent. Like who wants to talk to their parents about like girls or
Yeah.
in a lot. My parents were never big on video games or anything either. So
Right.
I could agree with that. Like, I couldn't talk video games with my dad unless I'm gonna bring up like Frogger. And girls was not something I ever really talked about with my dad either, because, like, you know how there's always that stigma of, when your parents are gonna give you the talk.
Mhm.
hmm
I never got it. So, as like a little bit of a smart ass move to my dad, when I was like, I would have been like 20 or 21, I was like, Dad, you never gave me the talk. Like, what's up with that? And he's like, here's my talk. I'm too young to be a grandfather. And he shut
Oh
it down right
no.
there.
it's similar
Yeah.
to the talk that I got from my dad. Is he pretty much waited until I had my first girlfriend? All he said was, "Don't forget to wear your raincoat."
Mm. Yeah. No. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but like Asians kind of shy away from sex stuff. It's very taboo, and I don't know what that stems from. But yeah, fa- more on my dad's side, same thing. My parents divorced, and my dad never really talked to me about girls or anything. He's just like, oh, like he's just catch up, like, oh, you have a girlfriend now and stuff like that. But he never tell me about like sex and how to talk to them or anything like that. Um, so a lot of my guy friends would help me out with that, right? So.
And that's one of the importances of having that group of guy friends, because, like, looking back on it, I learned a lot more from my friends than I learned from my parents.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that's in all aspects of everything, not like just girls and dating and things like that, but like
Right.
the skills that I learned from my friends, like through our experiences, like that's stuff that you're never gonna forget.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Um, how how hard is it for y'all to maintain these friendships then? Like is it like, do you guys feel like it's a chore, or do you feel like, oh, it's pretty easy, not a big deal?
I would say true friendship should never feel like a chore. Like if
Mhm.
you feel obligated to go spend time with your friends, like are you really friends with them? Like
Mm.
I would
like I
second
enjoy.
that.
Like I say, I enjoy it. If I get to spend time with JB, I enjoy it. Like if I get to spend time with any of my other friends, like yeah, I'm out socializing. I'm having a good time. It's a lot better than just sitting at home alone most of the time. Sometimes you do need some alone time, but
That's weird, Strive. I hate this guy. I'm like, well, I don't know why I hang out with him every week.
No,
Jeff,
like
how do you feel?
I agree with what Strive's saying. So the way Cass and I describe it is like he said true friendship. We call them zero energy friends.
Okay.
Like it doesn't drain you to spend time with that person. Like to me that is as he described a true friend. Someone that like even if my social battery is at zero and I don't want to be around people,
Yeah.
I can still see that person and even if we're just sitting on the couch watching TV, doing anything,
Right.
like to me that is a true friend, an important friend. So like
Nice.
with Strive here, like I don't care what I'm doing, I'm never gonna say no unless I'm like busy. But
right.
like if my social battery's drained but I got nothing going on, he's like, hey man, like I'm gonna come over for a little bit. I'm like, door's open. Walk in when you get here.
Yeah.
And like to me the biggest benefit of those friendships is like your social battery may be at zero, but spending an hour with them, it may kick back up to like 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. Like being with those friends recharges you and makes you feel better versus
Right.
the other hand, like Strive was saying, if you feel obligated to hang out with that person, that's draining your social battery. And by the end of it, you're just like, okay, is it time to go home yet? Like, I gotta go water the cat. Sorry.
What a
Water the
cat. Yeah.
cat.
You're just looking for that excuse to get out of there. And I do have some friends that are like that, where it's like, it's good to spend time with them from time to time in small doses, but they drain me more than any other friend. And it's like, okay, like we've been
Right.
hanging out
Yeah.
for a few hours, like I gotta go home.
Definitely know a few people like that as well too.
And what's the difference between like the zero energy friends, the true friendships, and then friends that do require energy? Like what's the missing component there? What makes them not a zero energy friend?
To me, it's how much you can relate to that person. Like, it's a common joke between me and Strive that we share two brain cells. So,
Yeah.
like, we're almost always on the same page with
Yeah.
almost everything.
Yeah.
And we're never struggling to find things to talk about or to do. Like, with some friends, you always feel like you have to be doing something, whether it's, going to the movies, going bowling, going out shopping. Like, there always needs to be an activity
Hmm.
because there's not enough there to build off of each other to just chill. Whereas a zero energy friend, you can still go do all that great stuff, go shopping, go bowling, go to the movies, but you can also sit there and veg out of the couch and be perfectly happy with
Watching weird Pokemon trivia videos or what have you.
it.
That sounds oddly specific, Strive.
Yeah, it
One of
might have
the
been an experience that we had together.
Yeah.
he had came over to do laundry because his apartment doesn't have a washer dryer,
Sure.
and it's just cheaper to come here and do it, and he gets to hang out with me while he does it. And we were just kind of watching random stuff on YouTube, and I found this channel that does like Pokemon trivia,
Yeah.
but the answers are so far from the truth. It's like that old meme where like the dude's screaming like it's Pikachu, and they're like, no, it's Clefairy. It is that embodied because they'll give you the silhouette of a Pokemon, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that is 100% Machamp, but no, it's freaking Machoke, and they gave him extra arms, like he's holding up arms or something. Like they just stretch it so far. It was hilarious. He hated every second of it.
It's so because I'm a huge Pokemon fan, so like,
Mhm.
and when I see stuff like that, I'm like, it's frustrating. But no, it's a good time because like that's one of those things. Like I was frustrated with video, but I was still having a good time because I was spending time with Jeff, and we were just vibing, chilling, laughing.
Nice. Damn. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I yeah, totally. I can totally see that. I've never had to compartmentalize my friends, because I just look at friends of like, if they are a good person, I want to keep them in my life. I kind of put in that effort of like, okay, let me check up on them and let me reach out to them. Let me remember their birthdays, text them, etc. So for me, not that I'm saying it's a chore or like it's like, oh crap, I have to like reach out or anything. It's more of like I do a conscious effort in keeping friendships. But definitely, I agree with it. Like I have like best friends and friends where we don't talk for weeks or months, but then when we catch up, it's like we never we never left. You know. Um. So yeah, yeah, interesting. It's good. Yeah. So that's yeah, that's friendships. Speaking of maintaining friendships, did have y'all ever lost any friends? Has there been any fallouts with any friends or anything like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I actually was renting a house from a friend when I lived
Okay.
back in Illinois,
Yeah.
and we used to go to the movies and hang out and play video games and stuff all together all the time. And then I was trying to move down here to Texas where I'm at now, but finances were always trying to save the money to get down here because it's not a cheap move to move that far. But he was getting impatient with me, and to the point where he essentially evicted me from his house, and I had to go live
Jeez.
with my other friend in Michigan for a while, and it it caused some strife. Like he and I just don't talk anymore, and I don't have anything nice to say about the guy, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's definitely showed like I said, a true friend versus somebody who's just kind of a I want to say like a false friend, but like more of an acquaintance that like you get along with to an extent.
If you didn't, let's just say hypothetically, you never rented out that place from your friend, do you think you'd still be friends today, or there something else would have come up?
It might not have ended as
Hmm.
sourly as it did, but I do think that we would have like kind of grown apart and separated, especially with me, like I
Yeah.
said, being several states away now.
Right. Right. Oh well, yeah. Big
Yeah.
distance too. How was it? Was it hard? Did you feel? How did you feel?
Angry.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was like, you're really gonna like. I get that you're trying to get this stuff done, but like, it's not. You also like it just like he didn't even try to understand it from my perspective.
Right.
Where like, hey, and like I get that you're wanting to move in here and this and that, but like it's not easy to move five. What is it? Four or five states away,
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
and like especially when I didn't have the best job at the time, which it's improved since then. But I eventually got down here, so all in all, it's for the better. It was just a sour way for that friendship to end.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you talking Fallout like Strive's case here where something negative happened, or are you lumping in growing apart too?
Yeah, that's same with Fallout. Like just losing a friend or like just having to cut them out or anything of just
Because
distancing
I
with
feel
them.
like I've had more that I've grown apart from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that it ended on a negative note, just we just kind of stopped talking to each other because we're at different states in our lives. Like, especially when I left my hometown and joined the military, I lost contact with a lot of people
Yeah.
because I was gone. Like ever since I left my hometown, I've only been back like 4 times in the past 15 years,
Jeez.
and like some of those people I still have on like Facebook, and every once in a while they'll like a picture I post or vice versa, but I wouldn't really call them friends anymore. I will say one that hurt a little bit. Um, he was one of my very good friends. Like he was in like my close knit group in high school for multiple
Yeah.
years, but then uh, he also joined the army. He was stationed somewhere else, and once he joined the army, he cut contact with everybody.
Mm.
Like
So it wasn't personal. It
it,
was.
it wasn't personal, but
Yeah.
it hurt because like
Right.
I would have considered him, being a good friend for years to come,
Right.
and like for him to ghost everybody, like it kind of hurt the group a lot. Like a lot of people took it pretty hard,
Yeah.
and even today, like I still have him on Facebook, and
Mhm.
every once in a while I'll be like, "How you doing?" and I never get a response, and I'm like,
What?
man, like what the
Even
hell?
now?
Even now, 15 years later, like I could go message him right now, and I guarantee you, it'll stay on delivered. I won't get a response. He just doesn't answer, and no one
And you don't
knows
know
why.
why.
Like
No one
nothing
knows why.
happened. Nothing happened. Like we didn't leave on bad terms. We just went separate ways in life, and like I've seen him now. Like he's married. He's got kids. He's doing great. So I'm happy
Okay.
for him. But I think he just wanted to start over.
I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. Like you don't just there has to be a specific reason why you leave your old life, right? If he's trying to if he's trying to start over or something, but like usually that's because there's something bad, right? Usually.
Yeah. I do have another one similar to that, but it was for a bad reason.
Mhm.
So it was actually one of my good friends that I met in the military. Uh, we deployed to Afghanistan together, and he quickly became my best friend over there. Like as soon as work was done, like we'd meet up at the smoking area, we'd have a cigarette, we'd go get dinner, like, and we would spend the evenings after work just shooting the shit.
Right.
And then when we got home from Afghanistan, uh, I had told him I was going to go to college, and he
Mhm.
was like, "I want to go too."
Okay.
So like he enrolled at the same college. We actually had a couple classes together that first year, like for the general education classes, and like we were always hanging out. We'd go to the bars together. We'd go to the movies together. Like we were really good friends. And then he started to distance himself from everybody,
Yeah.
and he dropped out of college. And then no one had heard from him for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, his mom contacted me and was like, have you heard from him? None of us have. And I was like, I haven't. Like, he dropped off the face of the earth. And I had asked her, I was like, did something happen? Like, he literally did a complete 180, like
Okay.
almost overnight. And she was like, yeah, he got into drugs. He started using heroin. I was like, oh no. And we tried, like me
Yeah.
and one of his friends. It was actually his roommate. I'm still in contact with his roommate. Like I still talk to him to this
Mhm.
day. Uh, we've been trying for years to get a hold of him. He finally messaged me back about 6 months ago
Okay.
to ask for money.
Oh no.
And at
Oh
that
no.
time, like, I was not in a good place financially, so I was like, dude, I could send you $20. Like,
Mhm.
that's all I have.
Mhm.
And he's like, I'd appreciate it. Like, I get paid Friday. Like, I need food to get me to my next payday. I'm like, I can send you 20. That's all I got. And
Mhm.
I knew he was not gonna pay me back like he said he would, and he didn't. I haven't heard from him since.
Yeah.
And it's not like I've been like, hey man, where's the money? I just
Just
every couple of
still
weeks I'll
on.
send him a message like, hey, how you doing? No response.
Jeez.
That one hurt.
Yeah.
Now if
What?
this motherfucker right here decided to disappear,
Right.
I'm gonna find you.
Force you to be his friend again.
I've got no plans.
Um, being friends, we've talked a lot about the pros. What are the cons? Is there any, have you seen any, I don't know. I guess I'm being biased because I feel like it's just all benefits, but I'm sure there might be some kind of disadvantage to having friends, right? Like maybe sentiment or anything like that, like really feeling, yeah.
Cons to having friends.
Like, have you
That
all
is
ever
a
felt jealousy with your friends or anything like that?
Jealousy is a whole nother story. So now, are we talking like friends that are jealous of how close you are with other friends? Or like a friend that's jealous of your life? Or just jealous of you in general?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe all of it. It's just because like if you didn't have those friends, you wouldn't be jealous of them in the first place, right? Like or um a lot of times people have bad friendships, I guess, and it kind of causes more problems than not. So,
Because I
um
mean, I have had a friend who was jealous of how close I was with another friend,
mhm.
and that did cause some rifts, but it was never addressed. Like, I could tell through their actions that they were jealous of me spending time with this other friend, but I never brought it up because I was like, I don't feel like ruffling feathers. Like, I'm just going to let this go and let it play out. And eventually it kind of went away. But uh, I can't really see any cons
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
having friends, especially like a good friend, a zero energy friend. Like, to me, there's no
Exactly.
cons to a friend like that. Like, they're your ride or die.
Exactly.
I could see
It's all fun.
cons to like the high energy friends, the ones you can only
Right.
take in small doses. It's like,
Mhm.
love you, but give me some fucking space.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like true friends, like I don't I don't know that I can think of any cons, but like some of the high energy friends are the ones that are they're not like good friends and they're just kind of
Yeah.
social. Like I don't know what the word I'm looking for there is, but yeah, feeling the need to like be obligated to go help them in their time of need, even though you're not really that close, that could cause a bit of a like a rift there as well, and that could be a con, which would cause strife in your life. That's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head, anyway.
Yeah, so
But
then I guess our consensus is like having a true friend is pretty much a win. Like there's
right,
just
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah, nice.
Especially if
Just
you
like
can
just
find someone that you can bond with on that level.
exactly. Um, and then just like what do you think about like friends being friends with our partners? You know, them maybe hanging out one on one or something like that. Do you feel like that's is that a boundary or is that doesn't matter? It's okay.
To me, it depends on the friend.
Okay. Like well, let's stick with true friends here. Let's stick with a true friend, like Strive hanging out with Cass, or
I would
you know.
have zero issue if I came home from work one day and Strive was at my house hanging out with Cass.
in fact, I think we've done
I'm pretty
that.
sure
Yeah.
it has happened before.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, it's
But
like true friend. If you can trust somebody enough, that I mean, that's a true friend. Like, if
Hmm.
you can't trust somebody to be alone with your significant other, or trust your significant other enough to be alone with that other person,
that's the
Hmm.
other side.
is that really a true friendship? You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Right.
Like,
So I have probably four friends that if I came home and they were on my couch, I wouldn't question it. And that's nothing against Cass. I have full trust in Cass. Like, I know she
Hmm.
would never do anything like that to me.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean other people won't do stupid shit.
Right.
very true.
So, but yeah, I've got about four of my close friends that if I came home there on my couch, I'd be like, yeah, cool. And Strive's one of them. Like, if I ever got home from work and he was sitting on my couch, I'd be like, what's up, bro?
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about how so many I've had a bunch of friends or exes, flings and stuff where they tell me their past relationships where they're not allowed to have friends or go out or like they and or the the partner would be like, hey, like stop being friends with this person, and but I guess it goes back to they're not true friends. Um,
There's got to be that trust in your
Yes,
friend and in your
and the
partner.
partner, yeah, exactly. So
and I get that trust can be a hard thing to come by, but if you vibe with somebody well enough, it shouldn't be too difficult.
And trust is definitely an earned thing. Like,
Yeah,
I have what I like to call blanket trust.
okay.
So when I first meet someone, you have my blanket trust, which is just your base level of, I would trust you with very little, but I don't have a reason to distrust you yet.
Hmm.
That trust can be built over time through friendship and activities, and that trust can be lost. When trust is lost, it's a lot harder to get it back.
Right. Yeah.
in my opinion.
No, I agree.
Do y'all feel like men and women hold friendships differently? Is there a difference between the sexes?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's hard to put into words, but the way that me and my friends would interact with each other
Hmm.
is completely different than the way women would interact with their friends.
How so? Like what do they do?
It's I've seen memes like on this too. It's like men will insult each other and not mean it.
Okay.
Women will compliment each other and not mean it.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of when I feel like when a man finds a real true friend,
Mm.
like we'll bust each other's chops and give each other a hard time, but in the
Right.
end we're still like, best buds. Like JB and I will talk shit about each other all the time, but never seriously. Like
Right.
it's never like, man, you're just a terrible person. Like,
Mm.
whereas I've seen this with some women, um, they will straight up like to their face, oh, you're so pretty, and then like behind closed doors, oh, she's such a bitch. Like, like, and I've just seen that. So, which I guess then they're not really friends, but it's hard
Mm.
to tell the difference. I feel like there. Whereas men, when they're friends, they're very open about it, and you can kind of tell. Versus when they're not friends with somebody, you can tell.
Right. I Yeah, it's so interesting. I remember being with someone and she would tell me like she, she would just walk in the room and then people were just already kind of like give her this kind of look, right? And then she would try to make friends with them. And so in the front they're like, "Oh, you're so pretty" and stuff like that. But then later on she would just hear kind of what you were saying is they just like, "Oh my God, she's such a B and all this and that," and then it's like, what the heck? She just didn't do anything. Granted, I only heard one side of the story, but
Right,
but I hear that often. I don't. It's not a one-time occurrence. I've heard that with
right.
female friends.
Whereas like all the guys I know, like if they don't like you, they're just gonna tell you.
Hmm.
Like they're not gonna be like, "Oh, what's up, man?" And as soon as he walks away, they're gonna be like, "Oh man, what
Right.
a dick!" Like he's gonna
Like
walk
you'll
up, they're gonna be
know.
like, "You can walk away,"
Yeah, exactly.
and
You'll
just leave it
know
at
if they don't
that.
like you.
You can pick up on it in like their body language too. Like,
Right. Yeah. Do y'all do y'all think? Okay, the question is, do you think men or women have it easier making friends? Do you think there's a difference?
That comes down to the person
Person?
it does.
because like you have introverts and extroverts. Like me,
Right.
Hmm.
like I have been told I'm very extroverted. I can make friends anywhere. Like I had a job interview a couple of weeks ago, and by the end of it, I got another guy's number, and we were texting each other the next day.
Yeah.
Whereas like, and I know this is just one example, but Cass, she is very introverted, and a lot of the friends that she has, she's made through me.
Right.
Like, not saying all of them, like, she definitely has friends she has made herself. I'm not saying she's not capable of it, but it's very hard for her to make friends versus me. But that just comes down to personality type. Like, because it could just as easily have been roles reversed. She could be the extrovert, I could be very introverted, she could have a ton of friends, I could have two.
Right.
And I would say I'm also very introverted. Most of my friends I feel like I've met through Jeff. I have a few others that I met elsewhere, like my other best friend who I've known since elementary school. But there are times when I think men do better, and there are times when I'm sure that women do better. Like
Mm-hmm.
if a guy walks into a room or like a party and there's guys sitting on the couch playing Call of Duty, Halo, or in some people's case watching a football game, they can bond really easily because
Right.
that's common ground. It's hard for me to speak on women's behalf because I've never experienced it, but I'm sure there's experiences like that for women too, where they can just bond over something so quickly and become friends. But I've seen it less than I've seen it with men.
Yeah. Yeah. I recall most of my relationships they would say how they it's hard to find common ground. Kind of what you're saying. They usually have to bond over like gossip or like work
Hmm.
talk. Kind of like what the TV. What is it called? Like social media or just celebrities, stuff like that. New. It's not news. What is that called? It's called like social news or
Yeah, something like that. I don't know the specific
yeah,
term.
yeah. So whereas us guys like we'll find the hobbies or something like that and bond over something like that because we'll just do something together. Um, so yeah, how so apparently I had come across this article and it's by Dr. Justin Pear, and he says that he claims that men are simply less satisfied recently with their friendships compared to women. Um, he with his study he found that like apparently less than 50% of men are happy with their friendships and only like 20% are receiving emotional support. So and then he compared it to women, and 40% of women is like getting the receiving the emotional support. So how do y'all feel? Because compared apparently to that, that means women are getting more emotional support than us than men are. Um, how do y'all feel about that study?
So
And
I have a thought on it, but
Mm,
Strive, if you want to go first, I'll let you go first before I explore my thought.
so yeah, I'm just thinking about that. Um, Overall, I would say I'm pretty content with my friendships.
nice.
I mean, there are times when I think like maybe I could have one or two more just to, you know, if JB's busy and I want to go do something, I'm not relying on him so much.
Yeah.
Um, but the emotional support aspect of it, I could definitely see because I do feel like men aren't encouraged to talk about their feelings and they do try to kind of bottle it up. So
Mm,
I'm lucky that I've been able to open up with Jeff and I've been able to talk about it and he's helped me through stuff.
yeah.
Not everybody's going to be that way. Whereas I've heard women talk about everything with each other,
Right.
like sex, relationships,
Hmm.
anything on that, like anything goes. So I feel like it's easier for them to get that emotional support and be more satisfied with the friendships and other relationships.
Yeah, I actually came across that the other day. I had caught up with an old friend from high school, and he had talked about he's about to propose to his girlfriend. I'm like, oh, congrats! And then he's like, I brought it up to my brother, um, this last past weekend, and it was nice because it was the first time I kind of was able to open up, and I'm like, you're like 25. What do you mean your first time opening up? And he's like, yeah, no, I just get kind of scared of opening up because, he's the older brother. He's gonna pull the older brother jerk move and just make fun of me and stuff like that. But now I felt a little more comfortable and I did it and we were able to talk about it. And so that kind of really caught me off guard, right? Your own blood brother and you felt uncomfortable to talk about your feelings until now.
And that's kind of where I was gonna go with
Mm-hmm.
it. Is somewhat in agreement with Strive. Like it is definitely harder for men to open up, but I do feel like on the other side of that, like once you find that one guy that you can relate to enough to talk about that stuff, I would say I'm getting more emotional support than most women probably are
Mm-hmm.
on a
Yeah.
weekly basis because I know like with Strive specifically like it doesn't matter time of day like if I'm going through something and I message him he's gonna be like what can I do what do we need? Do we need to go get a drink? Do we need to go get some food? Do we need to play a game? Do we need to sit here and chat? Like, what do we need to do? Because, like, in my opinion, men are very much like immediate try to find a solution. What can I do to fix the problem?
Mm-hmm.
So I think once you find that friend or friends that you can connect with on that level, you're going to get more emotional support than most others would. And I don't know if that makes us the outliers
Mm-hmm.
based
Yeah.
on that doctor's studies,
Yeah.
but I would say I'm very happy in my friendships, and I think I get plenty of emotional support whenever I need it.
Right. Right. And I mean, same here. I knew that like not me specifically, but just my friend group was a bit of an outlier of like we kept in touch since high school and we still hang out, we still have our friend groups and you know, we still support each other. I didn't know it was like 20%, like, you know, in across the board. Um, so
And I mean,
yeah, no,
like
that.
I like looking at it from a big picture. I can
Mhm.
understand
Yeah,
statistic because, like we said, there's a lot of guys that just won't open up. Your story right there, like dude's 25, 26, and it's the first time he's opened up to his brother of all people.
right,
Not even
right,
a friend, a brother, family member,
exactly.
someone that you
Yeah.
grew up with. Like I can see, especially in the older generations. Like I can use my dad as the example. My dad does not talk feelings.
Mm,
He is a man of few words, and he's very much like, I'm all right.
yep.
Now, that's just my perspective of him. I don't know if he's got friends like I have with Strive that he can go and be like, dude, work's been rough. Like, I'm struggling. He could, but to my knowledge, I've never seen that side of him. Not to say I haven't seen, expressions of emotion, like he cried at my sister's wedding and,
Right.
things like that, but he's always been that very strong, tough guy, like ready to face the world.
Yeah. I think it wasn't. It's not as. It wasn't normalized, right? It wasn't like, hey, like, what? How are you feeling? Like, what's going on? Kind of what your friend Gunny was saying was just like, it was just like, hey, just wipe yourself off, dust it off, and
Throw
that's
some
it.
dirt
You're
on it, be a
done.
man.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, there was never of like, hey, do you want to talk about this thing? Do you want? How do you feel about this thing? You know. So,
And that's kind of how
whereas,
I was raised. Like I know I've talked about it on the podcast before. Like growing up with my mom, I was raised to throw some dirt on it, be a man, and not talk about emotions, and that hindered me in later life
yeah,
because there was a solid like 5 year period where I was just dead to the world, no expression, like zombie mode.
yeah,
I think maybe that's where I've kind of excelled is while I wasn't necessarily raised to be very open with my emotions, and
hmm,
I do still find it sometimes hard to like express myself or even open up to people. I've learned through watching my own failed relationships and relationships with like my dad and his ex-wives, for example. If you don't talk about it, it's never going to get better.
right,
So that's why I always like if you have a problem, whether it's just a problem with like life in general, or you're having a bit of a strife between you and a friend or a partner or whoever else, talk to somebody about it because that can help. And even if it's just a sounding board, they can help give you some ideas, maybe to how to go about it, how to improve the situation, or maybe if you talk to the person who you're having a bit of a rift with, and make sure that they kind of understand where you're coming from. Maybe you guys can work together to solve that rift, to close that rift between you.
Attack the
right.
problem, not each other.
Yeah. Um, after that doctor's studies, I came across another report from the American Survey who they're suggesting us men are suffering from a friendship recession, as they call it, because they found out that only 27% men in 2021 were having only six close friends, compared to back in 1990 it was 55%. So it's dropped about 30% of men saying they're not having close friends anymore. Um, so and I'm trying to think about like what's the difference between like 30 years ago? Like why are we struggling to have friendships now? And I had thought was like, well, 1990 was kind of the start of that technical revolution, right?
I was
Technology
just about to
revolution.
say
Right.
technology. There's less face to face interaction now.
Yep. Yeah.
So I definitely don't have six close friends, I wouldn't
Hmm.
say,
Hmm.
but I'm happy. I always say quality over quantity anyway. If you
Yep.
have two or three really good ones, then you don't need six, 10, 20, however many.
Right. So I'm trying to imagine like because what there's 300 million guy oh no 300 million people in USA, so that's what 150 million guys if we cut it in half. Obviously that's not real, but and then like only 30% of those guys have close friend or good emotional support group, you know. Um, and then the rest 70% is like I have nobody.
I could believe it, especially like as we were just saying, like with technology nowadays, it's become very easy to never leave your home
Yeah.
and never get out there and meet people. And on top of that, like with the access to technology we have now, it's become a lot more common for people to move. So,
Mm.
like, rewind the clock 30 years, and a lot of those people, like, some of them, yes, may have gone to college, but a lot of people still went back to their hometown and still had those same people that they've grown up with their whole lives. Whereas with the explosion of technology, it's become much more common for people to move away and to go to different areas of the world. And when you do that, you're starting over.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
me. Like I last year I moved across the country, and I work from home. So I'm if I don't choose to go somewhere, I don't. So I get up, I work, I go to bed. I'm in my apartment almost all the time. Um, and something I've read or heard recently also was a lot of people my age, millennials and younger, they have what they say is like a lack of a third place. So like your first place would be your home, your second place would be work, your third place would be some kind of social environment, bars, going to a bookstore, if it, whatever else, whatever you would go out to do for hobbies, to where you would meet people of similar interests. Like people don't have as much because not only is inconvenient when like for me, I'm already at home from
Yeah.
my work. Why would I go anywhere and waste the gas if I don't have to? But it's also so much more expensive than it used to be to go
Mm.
out to a bar, go out, buy books, go out, even go get a cup of coffee. It's like $6 or $7 for a cup of
At
coffee.
least. At least.
When I
Yeah.
can
So
remember, I used to be able to get a cup of coffee for like $2.
so it's just that there also makes it very hard to meet new people.
Right. Yeah, I was even imagining not only us as adults, but even kids, right? Like parents nowadays, like I've seen several families where they just kind of throw the iPad at the kid and just have the kid just play games, and it's like that's not gonna be good socially, right? Because all they
Yeah.
know is just playing games by
And they
yourself.
don't know how to talk to people. So when they are finally put in those social situations, they're the weird guy sitting in the end of the room.
Yeah, dang. Um, last thing I wanted to point out was Dr. Pear had was it was saying one of these he found like a significant consequence from these lack of intimate friendship. I'm gonna repeat that. The consequences of this was loneliness. Like it's become as almost as detrimental to health as obesity or smoking. So he's pretty much saying that like it's almost essential to have those close knit friends, the male friends you can lean to and everything. Because otherwise, I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to look into more. I'd have to look into more why he said that. But I
Well,
mean, he's the doctor.
we've kind of hinted at it in a previous episode. Like, humans
Hmm.
are very social creatures.
Yeah.
And, like, because we're such social creatures, if you take that out of the equation, it's almost like taking away part of your survival aspect of like taking away your food or taking away your water. Like you need social interaction, even if it's on a minor level. Like you need, otherwise you're gonna sit there in your head and you're gonna go crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the detriment to health kind of threw me like to that extent, but I've definitely heard that it is detrimental to not have a social status or like a social group to spend time with. Um, but I could also like I definitely feel lonely sometimes, and I'm
Hmm.
not afraid to admit that.
Yeah.
That's usually when I do hit up any of my friends to ask to play a game or go see a movie or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and I could see how that could cause maybe some health, but I never thought about it like how it's just draining on your health. I always thought that's what led to more episodes of depression, which then led into other detrimental health problems.
Because I was about to say, like, imagine if you didn't have those friends to go to when you're like, hey, I felt lonely and I have no one to reach out to.
Right.
Which would
Um,
just make it worse.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And
I did hear like mental, like just psychologically and neurologically, like if the trauma is so heavy, just the mental trauma, the strain is so heavy, it becomes physical, right? A lot of people, they just get so stressed, they get freaking like back knots and shoulder knots and stuff. It just manifests physically. So I can see like you're just so chronically lonely, and it causes like kind of what you said, it causes like depression, all these other things, and then you just get a bunch of problems.
Stress
Yeah,
can be a killer.
it can.
yeah. Um, the American survey, they had called I like that they used bromances. They said that the intimate friendships between men, when it's fulfilling, it's more fulfilling than romantic relationships with women, which is interesting because I that's how I grew up. I for some reason I just came up with my by myself. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna treat my best friendships as if they're romantic relationships. Obviously, without the romance, right? Obviously.
Definitely with the
Uh,
romance.
Okay, with the yeah, especially with me and you, me and you, Jeff, it's definitely with the romance. Yes. Um, so that was so interesting reading that because I was like, that's how I literally would tell everyone, and they're like, okay, he's kind of weird, but like obviously they knew it was like, it's good, that's cool, but they didn't understand it. They thought it was very like alien, very weird. And I was just like, that's kind of what I was saying was I put on a lot of effort. If I see you as a good person, I'm gonna put a lot of effort into it. And it was just interesting to read it from a study of they're saying it's sometimes more fulfilling than a romantic relationship, and they're saying perhaps because men feel more understood by other men and assume like they will be more loyal and willing to help in times of need. um yeah, so and I can definitely see that, right? Like kind of what y'all have been saying, like when I need help, I can call up my best friend and I know they'll be there for me. um we don't have a female, so we can't say if that's the same how they feel
Right.
with that trust, but
I could see it like for
mhm,
sure. Because a lot of this is men are raised to have a different mentality than women. So
yep.
it's easier for a guy to relate to another guy and have that level of like bond and trust. And I would say the opposite is probably also true for women. Women probably find it easier to find a fulfilling relationship with other women because they have shared experiences and they know what it's like to grow up as a woman and have to face beauty standards and all that stuff. Whereas men have to, we're raised to be the breadwinner, we're raised to provide for a family and
Mm,
uh, carry on the name, like have kids, carry on the name, make an heir, and stuff like that. So like it's easier for me to relate to another guy who's also had experiences like that than to a woman who's had different life experiences. So I could definitely see that.
because I was gonna flip it too is we also between us guys, we don't, there's not that role, right? We're not trying to be each other's breadwinner and yada
Right.
yada. We're just here to hang out.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's another good addition. Yeah.
And
yeah.
it takes a load of stress off, like
It
to
does.
not, because I want to find the words to like say what I'm trying to say. So
Mm,
men have that standard they have to hold, and the way they're raised, and the social mold they're supposed to fill. But when you have like that bro that you can hang out with, the mask comes off, and you can just be you.
right.
You don't have to worry about his financial well-being on top financial well-being on top of your own. You just have to
Right.
worry, you don't even have to worry at all if you're just having a good time.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think even socially, right, it kind of this whole theme of like there's not as many programs about helping men in this case would be about how to communicate, how to create those connections. I had remembered one of my old friends' experience. He was in Boy Scouts, and he was comparing his experience with a Boy Scouts to Girl Scouts, and he was saying how like his experience was like it's all about being a rugged man. He's like, how do you fish? How do you hike? How to tie knots? Yada yada. And he was not really taught a lot about. He noticed, he was like, I was not really taught a lot in terms of like how to socialize or build deep relationships. And if anything, like he felt like the male environment shuts it down. It's like if you're gonna cry, you're gonna be called a wimp. Everything's really competitive between each other. And then he noticed in like Girl Scouts, it was way different. It seemed like they were more focused on camaraderie, friendship, leadership skills, community building, stuff like that. So he thought the vibe was way different.
I could agree to that because I was in the Boy Scouts when I was a kid,
Oh,
and
nice.
from what I remember of it, like there was like those team building and
Hmm.
leadership things, but a lot of it, at least for my troop, like I was in a small town,
Yeah,
we spent most of the year preparing for our big camping trip that we did every year.
yeah,
So we would learn how to put up a tent, how to cook over a campfire, how to start a fire. Like those were the main skills it was focused on, with a little bit of team building and all that sprinkled in.
right. Yeah, so would you wish that they had focused more on like just bonding between each other and
I think it
social?
honestly, I think it should be part of the curriculum of schools.
Yeah. Oh, good
I would
point.
agree
I
with
I
that.
think that there should be a social skills class in school that teaches you like how to talk to people, how to make friends, just as strongly as I believe there should be like financial classes in high
Right.
school that
Or,
teach you how to apply for a loan, what to look
or
for
like,
in a job, how to do a job interview. Like those aren't skills that are taught in
right.
school where they should be taught. It's things you almost have to learn on the fly
Yeah. If you learn that at all,
if you
right? Like
learned
if
it at
it,
all. I mean, like for me, like for job interviews specifically, like I never learned how to conduct a proper job interview. I just applied for jobs and went to them, and after doing so many, I was like, oh, so these are the things they're looking for.
right. Yeah, that was
Just trial and error.
there was it that's kind of how I felt about um what was it? How I grew up with making friends, right? It was just literally like I was the weird kid. I'd brought up like I was the weird kid and I lost a lot of friends and then I'm like, okay, this is not how to make friends or this is what throws people off and I had to be like, okay, I need to like learn how to make friends and nobody taught me that. I didn't have the older brother. I didn't My dad is Vietnamese, first generation Vietnamese. They focused on survival, not making friends. So I had to figure it out on my own.
It's
Yeah.
kind of how it is for a lot of people. Like I've talked about, when I was younger, like I didn't really care that I was the weird kid, and I was like, whoever's gonna be friends with me is gonna be friends with me. But like looking back, I probably could have done things a little differently had I been, taught how to communicate with people versus just not caring.
Yeah, exactly. So, and yeah, but I think I just think socially it's just not taught because it doesn't make a profit, right? Like making friends doesn't really make money for a business, or a corporation or in the workforce. Uh, arguably,
I mean,
arguably.
we live in a capitalist society, and that's bottom line. It always just comes down to money. And if you look at, the reason school was founded in the first place, which I don't know if that's a topic you want to jump into,
What was it? What
the
topic?
reason that school was founded in the first place.
Oh, go ahead. You bring it up.
So I don't remember whose idea it was. I know it was around the time of like the Industrial Revolution, maybe a little before that. Like I don't have the exact facts, so please don't quote me on all of it. But
Hmm.
when school was first put in on like a societal level to where it was actually like turned into the public school system, it was meant to prepare you for a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah,
Get them
pretty
in
much.
one area, keep them there for 8 hours a day, and then let them go home. And when like subjects were brought to the table, they're like, well, what do we teach them for these 8 hours a day? The guy that came up with it was literally like, teach them everything about nothing.
Mm.
See, and my opinion on school is let's focus less about solving for X and teach them life skills. If
Yeah.
they want to go into further education for math, science, literature, whatever, that's what college can be for. High school, I think, should focus on home economics, consumer education. So, filing taxes and balancing your checkbook and some of the
Mm,
stuff that I wasn't taught in school. Um, that would help me a lot as an adult. And you're still getting the 9 to 5 job preparation because you're still there for however long, but you're learning actual life skills. Like even changing your oil, changing your tires would be a huge benefit to a lot. I know a lot of people that don't know how to do that themselves.
right. Yeah. No,
So
I twice I've come across my brother-in-law and then a friend was like, I don't know how to change a tire, and but they're my age, 28. So
say,
I taught
yeah,
myself how to change a tire.
yeah, same. Well, someone actually helped me. I got a flat tire. I was on the road. This guy was just jogging in the neighborhood. He's like, "Do you need help?" I probably looked as clueless as heck, and he's like, "Do you need help?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And then he taught me. He was an older man, so he's like kind of, that father figure. So that was kind of cool.
Now, I will especially agree with you, Strive, on the taxes aspect of it. I knew nothing about taxes other than I have to file them every year until I got a job that was in the tax field. And then I finally learned, like, oh, so this is all what goes into filing your taxes. And I do think that's something that definitely needs to be taught nowadays because
like,
it's super important. Like, you can go to prison for not doing it.
yeah, and that's what I said. Like, and how many people don't know how to cook? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
half the
Kraft mac
population.
and cheese. Kraft mac and cheese ain't cooking. I hate to tell you, but I'm just saying, like being able to learn stuff or clean stains, work on your car. Like I said, change the oil, change the tire, change your windshield wiper fluid, all that stuff. And then on top of the going back to the friends thing, like having some kind of social, leadership exercise, stuff like that. Just stuff that's more essential to everyday life than oh well, this is how you factor an equation. Because I've not used that since high school.
Or a cool idea would have been like, I don't know how you'd implement this, but like if each person knew one specific thing and you bring them all together to teach everyone like a
Hmm.
hodgepodge of, hey, let's show each other these skills, so it builds up that communication community skills as well. That'd have been really
So
cool, but
kind of like a self-taught life skills class.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how that you'd implement that, but yeah, the one person with each skill set like specific, and then just kind of help each other teach everyone.
I mean, it would work as long as you had students that knew the skills.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how you implement that. I guess you'd have to have like a guide or a teacher's aid or something like that. I
And
don't
saying
know.
like my school, we had like mechanic class and woodshop class, but they were electives. You didn't have to take them,
Hmm.
and I almost feel like stuff like that should be more mandatory than learning math. Some of the math. No, don't get me wrong. Some math is important. Definitely need to learn addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. But like some of the more complex, like calculus, should be an elective. Algebra 2 should be an elective. It shouldn't be mandatory, in my
Hmm.
opinion. But not everybody might agree with me either.
Hmm.
Hey, I have had
Like,
used slope intercept form a lot in my adult life. Okay.
You know what I've used an odd amount in my adult life? Uh, what is the Pythagorean theorem? And
oh,
it came up in the weirdest spot. I was playing D&D.
I can see that. That kind
I
of
had
makes
to
sense.
figure out the distance between somebody on the ground and somebody in the sky.
Oh my god.
the, the line across the ground and the line up, and use that to find the actual distance between the two players or the player and the monster.
You heard it here. Math comes in handy.
I mean, D&D is just math with Lord of the Rings skin over it.
Fair.
Yeah. Um, the last thing I wanted to bring up was, can a man and woman be genuinely just friends, platonically?
I would say yes, but it's more difficult to find somebody who you can do that with.
I would
So
agree.
like
It's situational.
Cass and
Situational.
I, JB's wife and I, good friends, platonic, no romantic or anything going on there. Great, but I've had other friends where like it was almost impossible to separate that.
Well, and I think maybe you and Cass are kind of biased because it's like Cass is married, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So like imagine like more of a single woman, you know. Um, I feel like it might be a little harder, it might be different.
Yeah.
Because personally, I definitely was that guy. Online, they have this term for nice guy, and I definitely was that nice guy. Not a good guy, so there's a difference, right? And so I guess to just for people that don't understand, a nice guy would be the person that you do nice things for. Usually the person you're attracted to because you're hoping to get something out of it. Usually it's like being in a relationship or having sex or something like that. And I felt I was that for a long time. You know, I really craved attraction, a relationship, stuff like that, and I would just go out of my way to do nice things, not because I was genuine, like that's who I am, but because I was looking for something out of it. Um, and and then coming now I'm older, I'm good. Like obviously I worked that out and I see online, especially through forums and stuff like that, where people, um, the nice guy mentality is still out there, like really by and large. Like a personal experience I remember was my little sister. She's in college and she was in their Vietnamese student association, and there was a bunch of leaders. She's one of the leaders. Oh God. There's one guy who attracted to this one girl, and he invited her out to coffee and and apparently they had to do something at his place and he bought her pizza and then they invited out to coffee. I think it was at the coffee place or after during text she's like, hey, I'm not into you. Maybe he asked her out and she's like, I don't see you that way. And he goes off, right? He's super angry. He's like, how could you do this to me? Like I've opened up to you, like yada yada yada. And she's like, I've never even looked at you that way. I thought we were just friends, and I have a boyfriend. Um, so that's kind of I wanted to bring that up between friends of like, is this is yeah, why do you call it situational? How could you be platonically just friends when it seems pretty hard? I don't know. Yeah, because I fell for it for a while. So,
For
I do.
starters, there has to be the understanding from the beginning.
okay.
Like, and I know that's hard to establish from time to time because, like, you're not going to go into a friendship like, I just want to be your friend, I'm not attracted to
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it weird right out the gate, but I don't know, like, that's hard
Yeah.
because, like, it's one of those things that just kind of happens naturally. Like, I've had plenty of female friends that I've never looked at in that aspect, and to my knowledge, they've never looked at me in that aspect. But then I've had the other end where, like, I've had some female friends where I'm like, given the opportunity, I would.
And
So, I mean, I guess if both parties, like, without verbally speaking it, if both parties go into it without physical attraction, I think it is completely possible to have a platonic friendship. But
Mhm.
if one of the parties is attracted to the other, that is where it's going to get tricky.
Yeah.
I can agree with that, and that's going to say like it's possible but difficult because humans in like honestly, if you look at any species scientifically, their prime directive, so to speak, is to procreate.
Okay. Yeah.
Like so, humans are no different. We're animals. We're animals. So we see somebody of the opposite gender. Most of the time, we're gonna be like, "Ooh, pretty." And there's going to be some kind of like, well, maybe, but if you go into it, you know, knowing like it's not gonna happen, like like I'm not attracted to them, they're not attracted to me. I think that's when it can be possible,
Yeah.
and it is easier when they're married or already have a boyfriend or somebody because you
Right.
know they're off the table. So you
Yeah.
you get into that mindset earlier that like, oh yeah, this is don't even think about
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just I see it so many times where I actually my an old best friend. I'll bring him up later, but an old best friend, he he was the same way. If anything, worse than me. Of he every girl, like, he just couldn't be. I don't think he had a single platonic friend. Every female that walked across his life, he tried to go for. Um, so
That's unhealthy.
It is unhealthy.
yeah. Pause for a second. I have a phone call. Let me see.
Do 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 do.
Okay, it was a telemarketer. I guess they hung up on me. Um, yeah, and it's so weird. I don't know if y'all can help with seeing if, like, a reason for this, but like the reaction usually comes down to when, like, the quote unquote nice guy, you know, puts tries their advances. The girl usually respectfully turns them down, and there's this, like, just harsh reaction of like they just can't handle the rejection. They're just like, they call them names, like, how can you do this, yada yada. Oh, kind of what I was saying about I saw that first second hand with my sister of like this guy. Yeah, and then the end part of that story was he threatened both the girl and the boyfriend, like you better watch your back. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, how did it go like, I don't know.
Some people don't handle rejection very well. I know
Yeah.
when in my like late teen, young adult life, like I didn't handle it very well, but I never handled it that poorly. Like I never threatened anybody or blew up like
Right.
that. But like
Right.
rejection hurts.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things you kind of have to learn to take it in stride. Like not everybody's gonna be attracted to you or want to be involved with you in that way, and you kind of just need to learn from those experiences and move forward. Like, don't destroy the friendship, especially if a friendship was there first and you
Yeah.
threw the wrench of trying to make it something more. Like, why ruin a friendship over that?
Right. Yeah, because I will say, I don't. The only times, oh wait, I'm trying to think. Like, I definitely had female friends, but most of them were they like, I had a partner, or they had a partner, so there's some kind of obstacle in the way. And then if it was we were both single, it usually there was some kind of talk of like an attraction to one or the other, and it had to end because of that attraction. So I I'm I can't really relate to two, let's say, two single friends being platonically friends to each other, of the opposite gender. Um, yeah, yeah,
Like I said,
I feel
it's possible as long as that attraction's not there. That well,
yeah,
I can't even say it's possible if the attraction's not there. Like they can be attracted to each other and still be friends, but like it'll
yeah,
work as long as one doesn't make a move
yeah.
and make it
Which
weird.
I mean, I think Strive's claims is right. It's just like you're biologically made to reproduce, so that, like, that thought's always gonna be there. You can't just turn it off, right? It's just an instinct.
But if you don't
yeah,
act on it,
and say not acting on it is a big thing too.
Yeah, right.
it's like the
Because like I've
thoughts
got
can be there. Like you can absolutely have a friend and look at her and be like, she's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you don't act on that impulse
Right.
to spoil the friendship, being platonically friends is 100% a
Possible.
possibility.
Mm.
actually have a friend. We've never met in person,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe friend is a strong term for that, but kind of depends on how you look at it. But when we met, she was seeing somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually that relationship fizzled, and there was the talk of because we talk about all kinds of sexual and otherwise stuff together, actually pretty often. Um, and when she broke up, she was like, "I'm not looking for anything," and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "You know what? That's fine." Like I played it out in my head too a little bit. Sometimes I do this, and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm like, if he did try to like take that leap, how do I think we would mesh? How do I think we would turn out? And if I don't think it would go well, I
Hmm.
don't pursue it. Like we're just our ideals are too different. Our values of what should and shouldn't be done or what we want from a relationship even is just too different. It would never work. Like
Yeah.
I know a big one for me is I don't want kids. That's a deal breaker for a lot of women.
Yeah. Okay. Um, at this point, we give each other our testimonies of how their social and friends life is and how it's affected them in life. Strive if you want to go first, or Jeff. I don't
Let's see. My friends, I've definitely had some strange friends. Like a lot of the people I talked to growing up, I don't talk to anymore. It's pretty much just one guy,
know.
and then the rest I've made as adults. But I'm very happy with my friend group right now. I've got a few people. Like if I'm trying to reach out and spend time with friends, I've got a good few options, and they're I know if I need to talk or something, they're there. So I'm really satisfied with where my friend group currently stands.
Nice.
I am also satisfied with mine. Uh, I've had a lot of ups and downs in friendships. Even my longest friend, we've been friends 15 years now.
Yeah.
He and I have had plenty of ups and downs where at one point we were both like f you, I don't want to talk to you, and then 2 days later we're like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, but where I stand now, I've got my close knit group. Like Strive said, quantity or quality over quantity, and that's where I want to keep it. Like I would much rather have my 4 or 5 close knit than 50 people that I could be like, oh yeah, I know him. I talk to him every once in a while. So, but friendships have done a lot to shape who I am today.
Right.
Like I don't think I would be who I am today if I didn't meet the people I've met along the way, and you know, I don't want to say allow them to shape me, but help shape me into who I am today. I think things would have been a lot differently
I
had
guess you could think
had
of
I
it
not.
like getting the proper nutrients and allowing you to grow in a good environment versus a
Right.
poor environment.
Yeah. Exactly. Um, for me, friendship has been a big part of my life story. I have my first best friend when I was 4 years old. He's 5 years old. We met at daycare, and I had to come over on weekends. My parents would leave me at their place, and I'd hang out with them on the weekends every single weekend, and then we keep in touch till this day. Still talk and hang out and update. Um, and then throughout growing up, I we had that close friend group, ups and downs, pretty usual. Just getting mad at each other or things happen, especially because I was so controversial. Right? I was that weird kid, and I was the chubby kid, and no one really wanted to be my friend. So it's like I think at the time it was a struggle for them to be my friend because of their reputation, right? Because reputation is so big back in school, and even worse in middle school and high school for sure. My first high school, I went to two different high schools, but just growing up in Arlington, and my reputation followed me up into middle school, high school of Vin's that weird kid, and and then moving down to New Braunfels, I had a clean slate, and I kind of figured out who I was and who I wanted to be, and socially kind of more I was more I learned socially how to be more adept, and it wasn't perfect yet, but it was better, and then my second high school with that clean slate, I was able to just start a the foundation of like my true friends of like this is who I am and this is what how they represent me. Pretty much all of the friends from growing up, other than my first best friend, like they I couldn't say they define me who I am, because that quote of saying like your closest five friends define who you are, and And then yeah, ever since college and past that, like I said, I any good person I keep in touch. So I do have a bigger I try going for quality, of course. It just ends up being quantity because I put so much effort into each of my friends, right? Jeff, I'm sure you know how that feels of like how much effort I put in, well, especially with this podcast and stuff like that. But then, and because you're a good person. So it's just that's kind of the example of yeah, and just remembering like even those small stuff of like birthdays and holidays. I do this thing where like I wait until 11:55 and then I make this whole list to send to like everyone to just keep in touch and stuff like that, family and friends and stuff like that. So um yeah, friends has been a big because exactly what you said, Trev. It's just these guys, without them, I wouldn't be who I am today. I most likely would not be here today. And yeah, and they just help you grow and learn stuff, right? Like from you and Jeff, I've learned so much already. And like seeing the new experiences and even be able to do this podcast, right? If I wasn't friends with Jeff, I wouldn't have started this podcast. So, um, but yeah, that's kind of my friend's life, social life. Yeah. All right. So this was the ending of our first connections chapter. Next week will be romantic partners part one. Um, Jeff, you want to do the motto?
Absolutely. Don't forget that we do have our Discord server. It is the Brothers Bonfire. If you're wanting a community, a band of brothers that are going through similar experiences to you, then come and join our journey and take a seat at the bonfire. Our Discord link is in the About section on Spotify. It is also in the vehicle description here on YouTube. All are welcome, so please come along.
Along with uploading every Wednesday, we're also streaming the podcast every Sunday at 7 p.m. Come hang with us after the podcast. The stream is a safe space for anyone to just chill, hang, and chat about anything. Take care, guys, and thanks so much, Strive, for being our first guest.
Thank you for having
Thanks, Drive.
Nice.